everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fire Up. I hope we're all fired up
Low
tonight.
battery. Please charge.
I hope
Yeah,
we're
I'm
all
so
fired up.
fired. Yeah,
My,
I'm real fired up. No, what I want to say before we get started into something, because it's something we should mention. Today is the 24th anniversary of the World Trade Center attack. Um, for those that weren't old enough, go look it up. It is a major piece of America history that everybody needs to know.
I would agree, and my sentiment is, I wish we all could act like we did on September 12th and be that country.
Yeah, because what happened yesterday wouldn't have happened
Correct.
in that country.
Correct.
For about 2 years, this country was more united, more together, less hate, less opinions, less everything for 2 straight years. And the media derision was starting then for mainstream media, but it didn't get to the full hype until 2 years after that.
I think back then, I think we also had a lot of respect for each other, and I think we've lost that. And I'm not going to get into anything more, but we need to respect others, whether they agree with you, whether they have a different viewpoint, a different religion, a different color of skin. I don't care what it is. Everybody has a right to their own opinion, and I'm going to leave it at that. But with that being said, let's delve into a little bit of the NFL. It was a big opening weekend. I know some people didn't have the results that they wanted. Let's face it, that's always going to be true, because every game, most 99% of them have a winner and a loser. Like, some win and some lose. I mean, granted, there's some ties every once in a blue moon, but so there's going to be people that are happy or not. And there is some games that I would say, I don't know if the team would want them back. I don't know if it would be different, but I wonder, and this is one of the topics we want to get into. I know Jeremy really wants to get into this, is talking about the preseason. Like, should some of the players be playing more in the preseason? Would we see the same results that we saw on that field? Because I can tell you that some of those games, some of the teams that we're playing are not the same team we're going to see in week 6 and 7.
Right.
Right.
Here we go. I'm going to say this right now. Look at the teams that won convincingly. The Packers. For 2 games, they used starters. And granted, it was only a drive or 2, but it gave them time to gel and get that chemistry together, specifically on the offensive line and defensive line. Because for the first 3 quarters, what I saw out of Green Bay, they had more pressure when Parsons was off the field than they did with him on. He didn't even register his first sack till 5:06 left in the 4th quarter. And I bring that up because I'm not saying he didn't make a difference when he was out on the field.
Right.
I'm saying he didn't have a single tackle. He didn't have a single sack until that minute.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he end up with like 2 assisted tackles in the sack for the game, I think it was?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, he was a difference maker. Yes, it did cause problems. But the bigger problem was the fact that our offensive line had not seen game snaps, actual game snaps. They can say that the joint practices are just as good as a game. The proof is on the field.
Mm-hmm.
That new interior O-line, it looked like they weren't communicating. Guys were going in different directions. Graham Glasgow looked just as lost as the 2 rookies out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I saw.
I would agree with that. I mean, and I think it also depends on the team. Like, the Packers are the youngest team again in the league, and I think when you're that young, a lot of them are second year, even though they're second year
Then
players.
Here's the thing. You may be the youngest team in the league. We're the 8th. So it's just as important for those young guys to play together as it is for your young guys to play together.
Right.
The oldest teams actually played out on the field, and that was the Chiefs, because they've got a lot of long in the tooth guys because they can't afford to re-sign their young guys anymore. They got to bring in has-beens and never wases.
And it showed on the field though. But I mean, and that's what, I'm saying is one of the things that I noticed too is speed. And I think the Packers have speed, and that a lot of that has to do with being young, um, and having that desire and stuff like that. The Packers were projected to do well this year, but they weren't projected. And let's face it, it was only one game, and it's been a game and a half. So right now they actually lead the Commanders 14-3. The Commanders missed a field goal at the end there of the second quarter. Jaden Reed did go out with an apparent injury. They haven't disclosed. It was shoulder esque ish area, so we'll see how that plays out. Um, Samir, what are some of your, takeaways from week one?
Um, I think yes and no. I think it really depends on different circumstances, different situations, chemistry, how many years a certain team has been playing with each other. Like, for example, the Eagles obviously don't need to play their starters in the preseason. They've played together for a while. They've won. They're reigning Super Bowl champs, so they have the benefit of the doubt. The Chiefs didn't need to; they went and played their starters anyway. But their offense came out flat week one, and Xavier Worthy got injured. The Bengals played their starters a lot week one, and they did this in hopes of maybe Joe Burrow getting off to a faster start than what he has the last couple of years, and didn't work. They were a missed field goal away from losing to the Browns, one of the worst teams. That's going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. So I don't know. And then, so I mean, I really think it depends on chemistry. If your guys have played together for a while, you really don't need to, because the purpose of preseason reps is to build chemistry. And I think that not only goes for a quarterback and his weapons to be on the same page, but I think it's mainly for the offensive line. Um, because it's hard for an offensive line, especially to go that long without in-game reps. And as you mentioned, Jeremy, coaches can say, "Oh, well, we did these scrimmages, we did these joint practices." That's not the same as full-on contact in real life game action. Like, our offensive line looked out of sync against the Bucks. Um, we couldn't get the run game going. I think Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier combined had less than 50 rushing yards. You're not going to win a lot of games with those numbers, especially with a defensive line like Tampa's, and you've got guys like Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey up front. So I think it matters there to a point as well, but really it just depends on chemistry.
You know, I think the preseason they also want to see the depth, and I get that. Like, who's going to be second, third string? Who do we want to keep? Who do we not want to keep? I thought it was one of the better games that I thought last week was actually, and this kind of surprised me. I was not expecting this, but the Steelers Jets. Like, I thought that was a pretty good game. I mean, and let's face it, Aaron doesn't play much in, and I don't know, did he play much in the preseason?
He actually was at all camp, and he played in the preseason
Yep.
in the joint practices. He was there for every bit of the camps and all the practices. So he did something he hasn't done in 7 years for Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm. But I think he realized that he hasn't been with this group of guys, and I think he's realizing how chemistry really does make a difference. Um, and he looked good. I mean, does he have the same mobility as he did years ago? No, he didn't. But he's a precise thrower, and I think that showed. And as
Yeah.
long as he has good protection. I mean, even, and hate to say this, even Justin Fields looked pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that kind of surprised me. What other games did you enjoy, Samir?
So a couple other games that I enjoyed. The no-brainer was the Buffalo-Baltimore game. That might already be a game of the year candidate. Um, and the ironic thing is, we talked a lot about how great this Ravens secondary was, how great their defense was, and if they don't win a Super Bowl this year, I don't know when they're going to win one. But um, offense did way more than enough. You scored 40 points. You're up by 15, about mid to late in the fourth quarter. But Buffalo scores and you turn the ball over and defense can't get the stop. And then they go and kick a field goal to win the game. And my thing is, if Baltimore's going to win the Super Bowl like I picked them to this year, even if they're going against quarterback like Josh Allen and the talent they have offensively in Buffalo, um, they can't be giving up 41 points. Their defense has to play a lot better. So that was one game that really stood out to me.
Well, and didn't Baltimore in that last 4 minutes? I know Josh Allen, and then they scored. They gave the ball back to
Yeah,
Baltimore. And didn't they have like with 4 downs, and they could? It didn't even take a minute off, and they
yeah,
couldn't get
they
a
went
first.
right down the field. And again, it just goes back to my point that a defense that's as talented as Baltimore's, especially in their secondary, shouldn't be giving up games like that.
Mm-hmm. But neither should Baltimore's offense, because Baltimore's offense had got the ball back with a couple minutes left, and they should have been able to drive down some or move the ball some, and they couldn't even move it. It was 4 downs, less than a minute, and they were giving the ball back to Buffalo again.
I mean, at the end of the day, they did score 40 points. So
Right.
they scored 40 points. I mean, I don't know
Not
what more.
enough to win the game.
I mean,
Yeah, that game was amazing, all the way around, and the comeback was amazing. And then let's go to the Monday night football game, which ended up being a
yeah,
good game. It started out 3 quarters where it was all Bears. Well, the first half was all Bears. The third quarter was nobody. Then all of
Mm-hmm.
a sudden, Michigan fourth quarter JJ McCarthy showed up. And you know exactly what I'm talking about, Candy, because we talked
Mm-hmm.
about this that season.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing how he could have 3 bad quarters and then one quarter erase the whole thing by being great. And that's that clutch gear that a lot of quarterbacks don't have coming into the NFL. And it isn't all hero ball. It's not him running around waiting for a play to develop. It's him making quick decisions, throwing
Mm-hmm.
5 to 15 yards downfield because the guys are open because they ran their routes and he knows they'll be there. That's what we saw at Michigan. And when they hit him by running the ball, it was because they were up against teams that had elite secondaries that could pick off somebody and take it to the house. And there was a reason for that because he did struggle with a little bit of mechanics and decision making at times. So, and you saw he had a pick six in the first half.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same as what you saw at Michigan, which means he hasn't quite grown into the NFL quarterback, but he still has that clutch factor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one thing that stood out about that game more than anything is that coaching matters. You have one of the best offensive minds in the NFL, like Kevin O'Connell. You have the best defensive coordinator, who will probably be a head coach again this time next year, Brian Flores, or he should be at least. The coaching at the end won that game. Like Caleb Williams went from being the neck like this generational talent, not necessarily that everybody was talking about when he's coming out of USC and why the Bears took him first overall. Ben Johnson had that offense clicking on all cylinders. Dennis Allen did a great job with that defense. They had like JJ McCarthy had no answers for them whatsoever. And then they go in, they make adjustments. Kevin O'Connell has that offense humming. and Brian Flores had Caleb Williams seeing ghosts. Like, he looked like the Caleb Williams of last year. Took a bad sack, missed a couple of wide open passes.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a complete 180. And I think at the end, a game like that comes down to coaching.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It does. It does come down to coaching. But also, you have to remember, Ben Johnson has a very difficult defense to run. And we're seeing that maybe Caleb might not end up being the guy that can run it. Because
No.
you saw that in the play calling in the second half was totally different in how he played than he did in the first half.
Yeah.
And they also got really conservative, too.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it again. I watched some of those throws Caleb missed, like the one to DJ Moore. That was a wide open touchdown that would have that could have, maybe changed the outcome of the game. And then he missed a wide open throw on third down. I think it was to Cole Kmet. Like, I think Ben Johnson overall called a good game, but Caleb just didn't make the throws that he was making in the first half. And that's what happens when, you have an aggressive defensive coordinator like Brian Flores. He's going to blitz. He's going to get pressure out there. And he had him seeing ghosts, basically.
Mm-hmm. No, I would agree. I would agree that I watched part of that game, not all of it, but yes. I thought it was interesting, and we talked a little bit about this the other night on Inside the Pigskin. The only new head coach that won was down in Jacksonville.
Liam Cohen.
Liam Cohen. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I did not watch. I don't know if you guys did. Keegan wrote on here, no one expected the Bengals and Browns to be close, but watching the end of that game was a nail biter. I did not see that game, so I don't know. I can't really comment. Did you guys, either of you, watch part or any of the game?
No, not really. I didn't expect that one to be close. I thought Cincinnati would have won that comfortably, but I saw the score and saw the Browns missed a field goal, so I was kind of surprised that it was close. Apparently, Joe Burrow, the Bengals offense, looked out of sync again. So, but
yeah, and they played their starters for a little bit each game too, but they didn't do it as much. It was like a drive here, a drive there. And there's something to say about building that chemistry, going that little further in the preseason. The teams that did it a lot, the Chiefs and the Chargers both. Look, they had a great game, 21-27, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a pretty good game.
The Raiders played a lot. So did the Patriots. That was a close game, but very low scoring because nobody expected anything out of either team anyway.
Yeah. I think another game that stood out for me also, even though the score might not say it, was I was not high on the Dolphins at all going into this season, but I'm also surprised about how bad they looked. They looked horrible. Daniel Jones had his way with that defense. Tua looked horrible. And really, when you look at the touchdown they scored late in the game when it was 30-0, the game was over. It was a check down to Devon Achane on 4th and goal at the 10-yard line, and he just ended up scoring a touchdown on that play. And they had a players-only meeting in Miami today. When you have a players-only meeting in Miami after week 1, it just shows that Mike McDaniel has lost that locker room.
Oh, yeah.
He has lost the locker room, and if this thing continues to go downhill for them, things could get very interesting down there. Like, who do they have next week? They have the Patriots next week. That's not going to be an easy one. They have the Bills.
The Patriots have always played tough against the Dolphins. Always.
Definitely.
And, my personal thought is Mike Daniels will be on the hot seat, if not gone, after this year, if they don't improve at all.
Well, I was going to say that if this thing continues to go downhill, he might not make it to the end of the season.
Yep, that's true.
And which is interesting considering just 2 years ago he was like the NFL's next offensive mind, the next offensive guru. To now he might not even make it to the end of the season. Like
Hmm.
it was that bad. They looked horrible.
I would agree. I would agree. I was, and was kind of surprised, but I wasn't, because I think there's all these distractions. I mean, look at, didn't Tua come out and say that he's still working on his relationship with Tyreek Hill? Come on, really?
And then like apparently Tyreek Hill, I think I think I guess what was it? One of his exes that I guess is filing a lawsuit against him and filing another complaint against him.
Mm-hmm. Like, there's just so many distractions. I mean,
You
yeah,
have a lot of distractions, and I feel like with a team like that, you need a strong arm coach, and Mike McDaniel just isn't that.
no, not at all. No, I like, I think you're right. I think before the end of the season, he'll be gone.
There's a good chance that happens because they have the Patriots week 2, the Bills week 3. The Bills have beaten the Dolphins in what is it like? It's been a while, like the past 8 or 9 games, something like that. So they've had no answers for Buffalo at all. They've
Mm-hmm.
got the Jets, and if I don't know how Justin Fields is going to look a couple weeks from now, but if he looks anything like he did Sunday, I don't see them winning that game. Carolina's a gettable one. They're not going to beat the Chargers. Browns, they should win that one. The Falcons, I don't think they're going to beat us. Baltimore, then Buffalo again. So it's not. And then they have Washington.
Mm-mm.
So there's a good chance that if this gets bad enough, he'll be fired by the end of the season.
Yep, I would agree. I would agree.
And the other game that was actually pretty good was Tampa Bay versus Atlanta.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't end the way you wanted it, Samir.
No, it didn't.
But at the same time, Penix is in his second year, his 6th or 7th start now.
Yeah, second year, his 4th game. He was the second most efficient quarterback under pressure behind Patrick Mahomes. And look, the Bucs outside of the first quarter did look like the better team for most of the game, especially up front at the line of scrimmage. Their defensive line dominated our offensive line. We couldn't run the ball. Michael Penix was constantly under pressure, but he put the team on his back. Zach Robinson's play calling wasn't great. We lined up in the pistol 40% of the time, and when you line up in the pistol, it makes your run game a lot more predictable, which I think also played a role. We didn't do well on short yardage situations. We ran 8 plays inside the 5 in the 4th quarter. And it took 8 plays, a couple of penalties. They reviewed a couple of plays for us to get in the end zone. And it was really on 2 plays on 4th down, Michael Penix putting the team on his back, reaching past the line, get a first down by a couple of inches, and then barely getting in the end zone on 4th and goal to give the Falcons the lead late. And then Baker went in just a little over a minute, gives the Bucs the lead. We get back in the field goal range, and Younghoe Koo misses a 44-yard field goal. So it just felt like that's another one that we let get away. And if you watch 2 plays before that, we're in field goal range. There's like 20 or so seconds, or maybe 20 or 15 seconds left. Antoine Winfield, this play right here, basically saved the game for the Bucs. I think there was blown coverage by Jamel Dean. Casey Washington gets behind him. There's a good chance if Antoine Winfield doesn't make that play, it's a wide open touchdown, we end up winning that game. And then the next play, it's a perfectly timed ball in the end zone. Kadarius Hodge, because Drake London and Darnell Mooney were both out. So we have Kadarius Hodge in the game, who's mainly a special teams guy playing receiver. Kind of slows down, doesn't read the ball, and then Koo misses that field goal. So just feels like one we let get away, and that I know it's week 1, but it felt like one we needed to have. because we're at Minnesota on Sunday night. It's going to be a tough matchup, and I quite frankly think we're going to be at a huge coaching mismatch when you look at Kevin O'Connell versus Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson, Brian Flores versus Jeff Ulbrich. Carolina is the one you should win, but they've played us hard. They've split with us each of the last 5 years. And then you've got Washington and Buffalo at home. Then you're at San Francisco. So it felt like one that we needed to have in the worst way imaginable. The season is definitely not over, but with the slate of games we have left, that was one of the more gettable ones, especially at home, with the Bucks being shorthanded the way they were. Like the play calling by Zach Robinson, in my opinion, was the most disappointing. This is your second year in the same system. You had a quarterback on your roster, unlike last year, where you had the same you had a quarterback on your roster, and the play calling was very conservative. I thought we got away from this heavy use of the pistol last year after week 1 when it didn't work, just like it didn't work this last Sunday. The run game was predictable. The Bucks basically knew where we were going to run with the tight end motions using Charlie Warner pre-snap. So yeah, like you've got to let him air it out. Now, I do think the injury to Darnell Mooney played a role in that, and the injury to Caleb McGarry played a role in that, but I think Zach Robinson's got to call a better game, and the offensive line's got to block better, got to run block better, and we've got to get more pressure from the interior, our defensive tackles. So, yeah, it's only week 1, but one I felt like we could have had.
Do you think that Jeremy was talking about in like the preseason that our starters need to be in there more?
I do believe that if the starters had played a couple of snaps in the preseason, the offensive line wouldn't have looked as out of sync. And I felt like that the offense would have clicked a little more, because preseason is not only for the players, but also for play callers to get a better idea of how things are working, what's working and what's not.
That's where I was headed, was the coaching side of it. Definitely. And coaching those same players and putting them in, calling the right plays for their strengths, but also knowing who your opponent is and what their strengths are.
Right. Like, and I think it's easy to point to the success that we had offensively against the Bucks defense last year, but Kirk Cousins was your quarterback. And the Bucks defense, especially in their secondary, doesn't have the same personnel that they did last year. So, and this is what a lot of people didn't get is in our fan base, that just because something happened last year, you can't just go in and expect the same thing to happen again this year. And I felt like maybe if the starters played a little bit in the preseason, maybe we convert one of those third downs. Maybe our offensive line is more in sync and we're able to run the ball more effectively, which changes the rhythm of our offense. Just a lot of things that maybe a couple of things that could have happened a little differently if they had gotten those reps.
Jeremy, what do you think about for your team? Because you have a new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator.
And from what I saw, the plays didn't look like they were called that bad. They were executed poorly. Tony Romo said it like halfway through the fourth quarter that Goff didn't have but maybe 2.5 seconds to try and get rid of the ball. And he averaged 3.10 by the end of the game, but that was after Green Bay went to a prevent defense on the long drive where they got down to score the touchdown. Now, I will say that was the only bright spot in this game, was that touchdown catch by Isaac Tesla, because that was tight zone coverage. He had 2 guys on him, and he's diving backward to the corner of the end zone at the sideline, snow coned it like OBJ, pulled it in with one hand, and managed to get both feet down before his butt touched the sideline.
Yes.
That that right there gives you so much hope when things go right, it will be good again. Because we weren't seeing that the entire game. Yes,
Mm.
Jake Bates did 2 for 2 on the field goals. Hallelujah. But it there was so much confusion on the O line, especially on that sack where Gary could have had a safety if he didn't pull Goff out of the end zone. If you watch that, Christian Mahogany and Taylor Decker were engaged with the defensive tackle and the linebacker on the other side. Rashawn Gary stunted to the middle, which is right where Graham Glasgow was supposed to be. And he's over there. I think that was Colby Wooden on that side that Christian Mahogany was with. And on the other side, Deontay Wyatt is engaged with Tate Radledge, and Glasgow goes over to help him and leaves the A gap wide open. And you can't do that. You just can't do that. I mean, it's a zone blocking scheme. So if your zone is the center of the line, guess where you're supposed to be? The center of the line.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then I think one encouraging stat outside of the fact that I think we may have our guy under center, Michael Penix Jr. I mentioned earlier that a Brian Flores defense is going to be in your face. They're going to bring pressure. They're going to blitz. Under pressure, Michael Penix completed 10 of 16 passes, 135 yards, no interceptions, 110 passer rating, and was only sacked once. And people talked about his mobility or the lack thereof. If you saw him play at Indiana, he could move. You saw his 40 time at the combine. The reason why he wasn't as mobile at Washington was because of the numerous injuries he had while at Indiana. So he wanted to change his play style. But every time we've been late in the game or it's been a pivotal moment in a game and he's had his name called, he's answered. The touchdown pass to Kyle Pitts to tie the game in the fourth quarter at Washington last year in a game we needed to win to make the playoffs. Unfortunately, we didn't win that game for other reasons. And then Carolina, another must-win game. We scored 38 points. And then even with bad play calling this past week, offensive line wasn't holding up. Our top two receivers went out. Drake London went out in the fourth quarter. He put the ball in his hands and put the team in a position to win the game. And the thing about good quarterbacks, like we talked about with J.J. McCarthy in the fourth quarter, is that when it's time to make plays, when it's time to make winning plays and put their team in a position to win, they did that. Michael Penix did that. Baker Mayfield went and did that as well the very next drive. Also, another notable stat, the biggest knock on our defense has been the pass rush. We haven't been able to get pressure, and it's kind of been that way since John Abraham left. We had a top 5 pressure rate in that game against the Bucs. And I think that kind of matches Jeff Ulbricht's attacking style defense. And now the knock on that is a lot of those pressures came when we were not rushing 4, which is a concern. As I mentioned, we need more pressure from our defensive linemen, from the interior, Ruko Rororo, Brandon Dorless, David Onyemata. They have to do their part as well and bring pressure. James Pierce Jr., 4 pressures, almost had a strip sack on Baker Mayfield towards the end of the game, which could have changed the outcome of the game easily. Xavier Watts almost had 2 interceptions, 2 dropped interceptions in his debut as a rookie. Billy Bowman had a sack on a blitz on 3rd down toward the end of the first half. So we had pressure. The defense looked solid for most of the game, and it came from a lot of the young guys that we're going to be relying on this season. So some positives and negatives to take away.
So I was reading, well, not reading an interesting article, but we get feeds from the NFL, and they did a little breakdown of some of the things some of the players for the kickoff weekend and the rosters. And I just want to quick kind of go over QB breakdown by the numbers. So there are 8 quarterbacks that started this past weekend that were either first or second year players. So 26 of the quarterbacks that started last week were first round draft picks. There were only 2 second round draft picks starting this past weekend, and that would have been Hurts and Smith. 4 quarterbacks were drafted in the 3rd round or later or undrafted. Zach Prescott, Brock Purdy, Rattler, and Wilson. There were 9 number 1 overall draft picks that started this past weekend for quarterback. Would have been Burrow, Goff, Lawrence, Mayfield, Murray, Stafford, Ward, Williams, and Young. And the other thing that let me get to it. I thought it was really interesting. I read, let me get to it. It talked about quarterbacks taken at number 1 overall are 14-1 in the common draft era, starting a season opener. When Caleb Williams got the win with Chicago last year, it was the first season opening win for a number 1 quarterback since David Carr back in 2002. Ward did not join Williams, instead adding his name to a long list of number 1s who lost their first game. Since 2000, the last 17 quarterbacks taken number 1 overall are 1-15-1
in their debut.
I mean, let's face it, these guys, they're getting drafted first. They're getting drafted to bad teams.
Yeah.
And I get that.
Yeah.
But crazy that stat, I thought. 1-15-1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think as you mentioned, they're getting drafted to bad teams. A lot of times behind bad offensive lines. Not a good receiving core, a lot of unideal coaching staffs. So that's not really a surprise. Not really surprised by that.
So I have one more kind of thing that I thought we would kind of talk about a little bit, and I didn't tell you guys we were going to do this, but I'm guessing you guys would guess who the number 1 college is, has the most players in the NFL. Which college is it?
Is it Miami?
Ohio State.
Ohio State was second. They have 56 players in.
Georgia.
Michigan.
Georgia is 3rd with 55. Michigan is 4th with 43.
USA? USC, I mean?
Nope. They are. They're down 1, 2, 3, 4.
It isn't Clemson, is it?
No, it's the one
Or
that you guys.
LSU?
No, it's the one that you guys haven't thought about. That like.
Oh, Alabama.
Yes.
Oh.
Alabama's first with 60. Ohio State 56. Georgia 55. Michigan 43. LSU 40. Notre Dame 39. Penn State 37. Oregon 35. Texas 34. Florida 32. And I can keep going and I can keep going. I was kind of surprised Florida only had 32. Wisconsin only has 25. And then Florida State has 19. Miami has 22. Georgia Tech's not in the list. Sorry, Samir. I just thought it was kind of interesting in the opening rosters. So with that being said, let's shift. We're gonna shift because we'll come back to NFL when we talk at the end. We'll talk about what we're looking forward to. Let's go to let's talk about the NCAA banning players. The story broke the other day. Let me get to it. There's a couple of them. Because now the NCAA is investigating 13 former players from 6 schools for betting violations. But what I really wanted to get into is the 3 that they said, and where is it? I'm getting to it. Maybe. Okay. NCAA permanently revokes 3 players' eligibility for betting on their own games. They bet on their own games at Fresno State, San Jose State, and were able to share thousands of dollars in payouts. Guys, we've been talking about this.
Yeah.
Why are we still talking about this? Like, how do these kids not know not to do this?
I mean, you think they'd learn by now. And number one, number two, I just don't get the point of doing it anymore, especially in the NIL era now. And my thing is, you're gonna get caught one way or another eventually.
Right.
Like you're gonna get caught. And a lot of the times they make it so easy. Like the quarterback, I think from Oklahoma we were talking about. Like, I guess either put his name on it, send it to one of his friends, or what. Like, don't make it obvious if you're gonna gamble. Well, number one, you shouldn't gamble because it violates the NCAA rules. Number two, if you're going to do it, don't make it obvious.
They said the NCAA said that the 3 bet on one another's games and or provided information that enabled others to do so during the 2024 to 25 season. 2 of them manipulated their performances to ensure certain bets were won.
Yeah, and this goes back to my point of don't be an idiot. Like in January, the 2 were teammates during the 2023-24 season. They were texting one another basically about how they intended to, as you mentioned, not play up to their standards in several areas. And my thing is, yeah, I don't know.
They said during one game, Robinson Vasquez and a third party bet a combined $2,200 on Robinson to underperform.
Yeah.
And a $15,950 payout was distributed among those who had bet. Really? You're not betting on yourself? You can't even bet for yourself to outperform. You want to underperform? I'm surprised that we're still talking about this. I don't understand. Like, are you that closed off from the whole rest of the world that you don't know this stuff, or what? I don't know. I don't get it. We've been talking about it for a couple years now. Heck, we've been talking about it for Pete Rose for how many years, and why he's not in the Hall of Fame. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't understand. Jeremy, you got any insights on?
Well, it doesn't help that the NCAA, the NFL, the MLB, the NHL, and everybody has FanDuel, BetMGM, Little Caesars, DraftKings, all of these different betting sites advertise during games, even on their scoreboard. It's getting to a point where it's affecting how these kids that don't understand that side of things, how bad it is. They see their parents go to the casino and bet all the time. Hey, let's go here, let's go there, or break out FanDuel on their phone and sit there and show them, look, this is fun. I'm playing on the casino, playing slots. And all of a sudden, when you first open it, what does it go to? Sports betting. Every single one of them. They don't go to the casino first. They go to sports betting.
I just don't get it.
But everybody should know that it's illegal.
Yeah.
We just dealt with Pete Rose dying and still banned from the Hall of Fame.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're going to finally let him in posthumously, which, as a player, he deserves it. I don't want to see the manager stats there, just because of what they proved he did while managing.
Right. Right.
Do you disagree with that, Samir?
I don't.
Because he's still the career hits leader. How many decades later? And nobody's broken it. And we've had people play almost as long. Cal Ripken, Derek Jeter, Alex Rodriguez, Kevin Griffey Jr. played a buttload of games. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
crazy that we haven't had these consistent hitters. Ichiro Suzuki, he was another consistent hitter. He didn't break it. He was in the league a long time. Granted, he was already what,
Break the
almost
home run
30.
record.
No, the hits leader.
Oh, the hits leader.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
Pete Rose. Still,
Oh yeah. I mean, look at how good Aaron Judge has been. Now he came into the league a little later. He was 24, 25, but still, yeah, he's not going to come anywhere close to breaking that record.
right. Hardly anybody will unless they can bat like almost 300 for 20 straight years to get even close. What was his career batting average? 283, 284, something like
Mhm.
that for Pete.
I mean, Chipper Jones, a career 300 hitter,
Didn't get there.
played 18, 19 years for the Braves. Didn't come anywhere near close to breaking it.
And what's weird is they didn't play as many games back then. I think it was
Right.
only 120 to 140 game schedule by the
Mhm.
time the end of his career came around, which means it was less than the 60s when he started.
There's no one that's going to come close to that because part of it is, let's face it, they now need to rest players too from time to time. And back in the day, they never rested them. They let them go and there's more analytics now. So, he's not good against this pitcher, so let's pull him and put this other. We're not gonna. That's one of those records that I do not see us breaking. Um, how do you guys feel about your teams now with MLB?
Well, my team's been out of it since mid-June, but it was encouraging to see Spencer Strider pitch a pretty good game the other day. The Braves did lose 6-1 to the Cubs, but he struck out 8 through 6, allowed 2 runs and 6 hits. The fastball still isn't there, which was expected considering the injury he's coming back from. It usually takes a full season. Well, you have your rehab and then the full season you come back for that fastball to be back to where it was. And even then, I don't think it will be back to where it was a couple years ago when he was just hitting triple digits with ease. But one thing that was encouraging was that he used other pitches to get himself through the game, like his breaking ball, his slider. Like the fastball was always his bailout pitch. And when you're pitching 100 plus in the upper 90s, you can just put it right over the plate. And a lot of times people still aren't going to hit it. But when you aren't hitting in the upper 90s, when you aren't hitting 100, you can't just put the ball over the plate. And the fact that he's using off-speed breaking ball slider is encouraging. And if he can get that fastball maybe anywhere close to where it was next year, that'll be good for him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can tell you, my Brewers they ran into a buzzsaw as they ran into the Texas this last. They actually got swept, which is the first time they've gotten swept since the opening weekend of the baseball season this year. They are still sitting on top, best record right now overall. I'm just hoping they can stay there and that they keep. They, like I said, they lost this last series, but they have a good attitude. They have a good skipper, and I think they'll bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still 3-17. Washington is losing horribly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you have Tucker Kraft on your fantasy team, it's a good night.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, how about that? The Yankees finally beat the Tigers tonight after losing 12-1 or 12-2, and then 11-1. They won tonight 9-3.
Mm-hmm. With that being said, let's go to my town before we go into the games for this week, unless you hit them on your my town. Jeremy, why don't you go ahead and start with your town?
Well, the good news is we got a couple players back for the Lions here. Let me get to Lion Central here because I got the update today. Taylor Decker had no practice. He's still resting because of his shoulder that he has been recovering from all year. Trevor Nowoski had limited practice. Sion Baki had limited practice. Terrion Arnold returned to full practice, and Jack Campbell returned to full practice, as well as Daniel Thomas. So Daniel Thomas was the special teams guy we picked up off of waivers that was with the Jags. That was one of the top 10 special teams gunner type of guys.
Mm-hmm.
So he actually broke in the beginning of the game during that first return when he was blocking. He broke something in his hand, and he's doing the Cam Chancellor thing. He's got the big cast on his hand now.
Okay.
Well, because as you know, if you wrap it enough, it doesn't matter for tackling if it's wrapped right.
Right. Right. Anything else happening in your town?
No, the Tigers are still leading the American League. I mean, I think the only one close is the Blue Jays, isn't it?
I think so. And I think they were battling back and forth. So I don't know with the Tigers losing today if that changes.
The magic number is still at 8 because the Guardians lost 2. I think it might have dropped it to like 7.5 or whatever, but I don't mind.
Yeah, you guys have the same record as Toronto, but Toronto must have beat you more because they're actually listed as the number one.
Yeah, they won the last series that we played because we don't face them very often. So I think they're 4-2 against us this year.
Okay. Anything else happening in your town?
Malik Beasley was cleared of his charges, but so far hasn't signed with the team, so I don't think he's coming back to Detroit.
Okay.
So I guess that's my cue.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we don't talk about a lot of WNBA basketball on here, but I wanted to give a quick shout out to the Atlanta Dream. They defeated the Connecticut Sun 88-72 last night, and that is their 30th win of the season. They set a new franchise record for the most most wins in a single season. The Braves, just as I mentioned, lost a series at home to the Cubs, but Spencer Strider's outing was encouraging. Struck out 8 through 6, used a variety of pitches, 2 runs and 6 hits. The Falcons, as I just talked about, had a pretty tough loss at home to the Bucks. The game started off fast, had a 50-yard touchdown pass to Bijan Robinson. We forced a 3-and-out on defense the first 2 drives, but we were unable to replicate that momentum from the first quarter, even though we did take the lead late. It seems like I'm not going to call it yet, but it's only through 4 starts, but it seems like we have found our new long-term answer under center in Michael Penix Jr. We have a relatively young team, so I think it's going to take a little time for them to develop, and that first 6 games of our schedule is not ideal. Big game at Minnesota next week. The percentage of teams that start 0-2 and make the playoffs is very low. So you don't want to start 0-2. You've got to find a way to get that win. And even if you don't win that game, you've got to find a way to beat the Carolina Panthers and hope you can get some help from teams that can beat the other teams in our division. Georgia Tech plays Clemson this Saturday at noon at Bobby Dodd Stadium. This is probably, or I would say this is definitely the biggest game for Georgia Tech since when they last beat Clemson, which was in 2014. because I feel like if they win, it will go a long way for them regarding their ranking and their chances possibly at the playoffs. Because you look at the rest of their schedule, um, there's not a lot of games that really stick out on paper in which you could give them the benefit of the doubt, maybe give them a boost in the rankings. Because after Clemson, they have Temple, Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, Duke, Syracuse, North Carolina State, Boston College, Pitt, and they don't play another ranked team as of right now until they play Georgia. So a win for them this weekend would go a long way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, for my town. Well, let's see. The Packers are playing right now. Washington just scored, so it is 17-10.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
The Badgers take on Alabama, so that's going to be a real true test for the Badgers. That's going to be a tough test, I think. Other than that, the Brewers are doing well. The Bucks were happy here. Giannis is going to be back. They signed his brother too. Down here, my other town, because I live down here and I've been covering. Tomorrow night we will be at the Tigers Marlins game because Detroit Tigers come down to play the Marlins, and then Saturday night we will be covering USF takes on Miami, and that'll be a big game because they're both ranked right now, and USF took down the Gators last week and Boise State the week before. So I think that'll be a true test. I know Miami had a true test the first week with Notre Dame, but I think this will be another true test. And this is an in-state rivalry, so that should be interesting as well. Now, that's pretty much all that I have going on in my town. Let's go to Samir. Pick 2 or 3 games in the NFL slate this weekend that you're looking forward to?
Oh, definitely. I've got 2 that stand out. The first one is the Lions and the Bears. Big division game. So this is so both teams are going to open their season with back-to-back division games. This time you've got Ben Johnson returning to Detroit, which is the headliner. Both teams are coming off tough losses. Detroit, they looked out of sync. They lost to Green Bay. The Bears looked like they were going to be in full control of that game, and then the coaching of O'Connell and Brian Flores eventually took over the game and put Minnesota over the hump. What I'm going to be looking for is, will the Lions offense bounce back at home in their own backyard against a formidable Bears defense on paper? And also, which Caleb Williams are we going to get? Are we going to get the Caleb Williams that for the first half of that last game looked everything like the quarterback we thought we were getting when he was drafted first overall out of USC? Or is he going to look like the Caleb Williams that reverted back to last year's Caleb Williams?
Mm-hmm.
Inaccurate, took a sack, just wasn't on the same page again. Brian Flores had that guy seeing ghosts in the second half. It, no answer for him whatsoever. And then my next game, now with that being said, I do like Detroit at home there. I think they're going to bounce back and go to 1-1. The next game I'm looking at is the Bucks and the Texans. As I mentioned, the Bucks are coming off of a win in a close game on the road in Atlanta, a game that, could have really gone either way. Now the Texans, on the other hand, are coming off of a tough loss on the road. The defense played well enough for them to win that game. The offense couldn't get anything going. And the concerns this offseason about their offensive line came home to roost already in week 1. They had 5 pre-snap penalties, and C.J. Stroud was pressured on 41% of his dropbacks. So there's a lot of questions about that offensive line already going into week one, especially with the new play caller. Now, I don't know what's going to happen there in that game. I think that's a game that could go either way. But as of right now, I'm going to give Tampa the edge because, like Brian Flores, Todd Bowles is another aggressive defensive coordinator. And with Houston's offensive line, I think that could spell trouble for the Texans. So I think give me Tampa in that game.
Okay, Jeremy, what are a couple games you're looking forward to?
Well, the Jets gave the Pittsburgh Steelers a run for their money, but came up short. So I want to see how they do against that high-powered offense of the Bills and when that Pittsburgh Steelers defense will show up because they really didn't in that game. So I'm looking for I mean, the only one who was playing defense was Jalen Ramsey. He might have saved the game with that play in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
And the other one I'm looking for is, can San Fran do it again without Brock Purdy and George Kittle and beat the hapless Saints? I mean, the Saints have been called the Aints forever. The only time they were the Saints is when Drew Brees won the Super Bowl. And back when Archie Manning played, because they looked halfway decent, they just couldn't win.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the games I'm looking forward to. I know you were looking forward to probably tonight's game.
Yes. I'm kind of half watching as we're talking and stuff like that too. I'm kind of interested in Indy versus the Broncos because with the way that Indy played, and I know it wasn't against a great defense, but the fact that they scored on every possession, and they're the only team, he's the only one to do that. Like to see them at home going up against Denver, who didn't have the best showing this last week either. And let's face it, I want to see what Mike Vrabel's Patriots do because I really think the Dolphins are not good, but I know they've always played the Patriots hard, so I think that game kind of intrigues me. And let's face it, we've all got there's the Super Bowl rematch. Eagles are going into Kansas City. Kansas City did not do as well as they would have liked last week, and they didn't do good in the Super Bowl. So, but they lost, worthy. So it'll be interesting to see if they can bounce back and how they do against the Eagles this week. So
yeah.
I guess those would be my kind of my games to watch for besides the game tonight.
Yeah, surprisingly, I was going to pick that one, but I think Kansas City, with how their offenses looked for the past couple of years, and now they don't have Worthy, they don't have Rice. I like Philadelphia in that one. I think Philadelphia takes that one.
So do I. The other one I'm interested in is, Atlanta going to Minnesota. Can they get it together and play 4 quarters? Because that's the only reason why they didn't beat Tampa. You can say what you want, but that was actually a decent game, but they did not play 4 full quarters. If Michael Penix and the Falcons can put together a 4-quarter game, they have a chance to beat that Flores defense. But if they don't, they have no shot.
Yeah, I mean, that's understandable. Like, I think on paper, roster to roster, I would give Minnesota a slight edge, especially up front in the interior defensive line. So we're not that far off, especially since they don't have Jordan Addison. But and if we get both Drake London and Darnell Mooney back. But my concern is that I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think the Falcons are going to get blown out. As a matter of fact, it's hard to see a game this season. You look at our schedule, it's hard to see a game in which you could say, oh, the Falcons are going to get blown out. Maybe when Buffalo comes to town, but really that's the only one. But I do think it'll be a close game, but the coaching mismatch between us and Minnesota is going to ultimately take over late in the game when those kind of things matter. Like most games week in and week out in the NFL are decided by one score. And in things like that, it's the team that does the little things the best that ends up winning. Like,
Mhm.
we can't have a personal foul on Baker Mayfield when he's throwing the ball out of bounds and give him the free 15 yards late in the game. Like, we've got to be able to contain the quarterback and finish our sacks, like, which we weren't able to do and haven't been able to do for a while. So I
Mhm.
think, unfortunately, I think the coaching mismatch with Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores will take over, and I think Minnesota wins a close one.
Anything else you guys want to discuss tonight?
Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Prayers up to your family. It's awful what happened in front of his wife and kids there in Utah. And now they're saying it was a rifle shot. It's more of a sniper fire than it was the guy that was at point blank with the gun. So this is looking more like an assassination than just somebody mad at an opinion. And that's awful.
That is. I can. Tucker Kraft just scored a touchdown for any of you that are doing
Yep.
fantasy
Good
football.
Lord.
How many points does he have?
Is that his third touchdown?
That's his second, I think.
Let's
Second?
see.
So he's got to have close to 22 points as a tight end.
Let's see. Who has Tucker Kraft in my league?
I think he only has 2 touchdowns. Let's see. Tucker Kraft has six. Well, I don't think they've updated it. 6 receptions for 124 yards and 1 touchdown. But I think
20 in a PPR league, he has
24
24.4.
points. Yeah, 24.4 points.
He only has 1 touchdown according to this, so evidently it hasn't updated yet.
Yeah.
But he has 6 receptions on 7 targets for 124 yards.
well, he only has 1 because Romeo Dobbs did the first touchdown. Josh Jacobs extended his streak. He got a touchdown, and now Kraft got his touchdown. So,
And according to Sleeper Fantasy Football, Chris Godwin is out again this week.
Yeah. I think Tristan Wirfs is working his way back, but I don't know if he's coming back this week.
Right. It says doubtful, so that doesn't tell you how close Chris Godwin is at all when they say doubtful.
And then it seems like on our end, we're going to have Drake London and Darnell Mooney back, but Billy Bowman was limited today. James Pierce Jr. is limited today. Xavier Watts, I think, was banged up a little bit. So I think that's just unfortunately, part of the game. Every team at this point, no one is going to be 100%. No team is going to be 100% health-wise.
nope. Exactly. Okay, guys. Samir, how can people find you?
All right, you can find me on X. It is below my name at ATL_Samir2401. I'm going to post a lot of my articles there. I'm going to post a lot of Atlanta sports content there as well. And you can also find me on Fire Up on Thursday nights at 9:30.
Jeremy, how can people find you?
I'm everywhere. At Smoking Jeremy on X. It is on Facebook at Jeremy Ballrick there. You can also find me on my page, which is Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions. You can find me on my YouTube, which is Kneecap Biting with the Motor City Lions. You can also find me on the Huddle Sports Network, which is an app found on your Amazon Fire Stick or Roku TVs. And you can also find me right here every Thursday night on the South Florida Tribune, where you can also find my writings on their website.
Exactly. Okay. Let me do my plugs. My husband wrote a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by Scott the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. It talks about his 40 plus years in the media business and how media has changed over those 40 years. He has a picture of him with a young Muhammad Ali, a young Tom Lasorda, Chuck Wepner. Go check out the book. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, shop.southfloridatribune.com, where we have a plethora of great content. So go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you see the red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, that means you have not yet subscribed to us. I do not know what you're waiting for. Do so now. Click it, like us, share us with all your friends and families, and then turn on the notifications so you know when we go live. We have some great content on the on the YouTube channel now, and we have some great shows coming up. I have to say, I'm really excited. He's going to do a series, and he's going to have, they're going to be talking about CTE. So stay tuned to find out more about that. If you want to advertise, you can call Scott 954-304-4941. And if you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you're always welcome to either comment in the comment section or email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. With that, guys, all I want to say is, Jeremy, you say your thing, but let me just quick say this: RIP to anybody that was had because I've heard there's other multiple mass shootings lately. To anybody that has lost a loved one, rest in peace. There is no, I don't even know how to say it. There's no space for these senseless, violent killings. No place. I wish we could get back to, not that I want another September 11th like we did how many years ago, but what we were on September 12th was a country united, and that's the country I want to get back to. So, Jeremy, with that being said, go take us out.
Try every day to be a better person than you were the day before. That's the only way to make the world a better place, much like we did the whole country back on 9/12/2001. Much love to everybody in the chat. Thank you, Keegan. Thank you, JB Stepson, whoever you are. But
Yeah.
have a great evening, everybody, from the South Florida Tribune, our family to yours.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
It's been a pleasure as always. I'm looking forward to doing it again next week.
Thanks. Enjoy the games.